Why do people always treat me like this? Why am I always the one being taken for granted? Those words echoed in Maya's head one cold morning as she sat at her small kitchen table, staring at a cup of coffee that had already gone cold. She had made that cup not for herself, but for a friend who had promised to come over. The friend never showed, never even bothered to send a message. The coffee sat untouched, just like Maya's feelings. This wasn't new for her. At work, she was the dependable one, the person everyone turned to when deadlines piled up. If someone was falling behind, the response was always the same: Maya will do it. And she did. She stayed late, cancelled her own plans, and carried responsibilities that weren't hers, just to keep everyone else comfortable. Her friends were no different. They knew she would always answer their late-night calls, always listen to their problems, always rearrange her schedule for them. If they needed help moving, she was there. If they needed money, she found a way. And every time, she told herself, it's fine. That's what good people do. But inside, Maya was exhausted. She was giving pieces of herself away every single day and receiving little to nothing in return. The breaking point came one night at the office. Her boss had left early for a family dinner, leaving Maya to finish a report that wasn't even hers. She stayed until midnight, her eyes burning with fatigue. And earlier that week, she had overheard him joking with another manager, "Don't worry, Maya will handle it. She always does." Those words cut deeper than she expected. They weren't filled with appreciation, they were filled with expectation. People didn't admire her dedication, they had come to depend on it. Not because she was capable, but because she never said no. That morning, looking into her coffee cup, Maya finally saw the truth. She hadn't been respected. She had been used. And the harsh reality was this: she had allowed it. Every time she said yes, when her heart screamed no, she gave others permission to walk over her. For the first time, Maya whispered to herself, "No more. I deserve better." It wasn't a plan. It wasn't a solution. But it was the spark of something new, the beginning of change. When Maya began reflecting on her life, she noticed a painful pattern: her constant yes had a hidden price tag. And that price wasn't small. Every time she agreed to take on more than she could handle, something inside her quietly broke down. At work, the cost showed up as exhaustion. She would stay long hours to complete tasks that weren't even hers, thinking it would earn respect. But the opposite happened. Her coworkers got used to it. Why would they push themselves when Maya was always there to pick up the slack? Instead of being praised, she was simply expected to sacrifice. Her personal life wasn't any better. Friends relied on her for everything, from emotional support to errands they didn't want to do themselves. She became the reliable one, the person they could count on, but not necessarily the one they valued. When she needed help, those same friends were suddenly too busy. It stung, but Maya kept smiling, pretending it didn't hurt. The truth was, her constant yes was costing her peace, her energy, and even her identity. She didn't know what she wanted anymore because her entire focus was on keeping everyone else happy. Her dreams were on hold. Her goals collected dust. She had become so busy filling others' cups that her own was completely empty. And with every small sacrifice, resentment began to grow. She would say yes with her mouth but no with her heart. She would show up for others, but deep down, she felt invisible. Here's the hard reality Maya discovered: when you don't respect your own limits, you teach others not to respect them either. By constantly agreeing, she had unknowingly trained people to take advantage of her kindness. They didn't see her as strong, they saw her as easy. And it wasn't because they were cruel, it was because she never showed them where the line was. The cost of always saying yes wasn't just tiredness, it was a loss of self-worth. The more she gave without boundaries, the more invisible she became. And slowly, Maya realized that being everyone's yes person was the same as telling the world, my needs don't matter. That realization hurt deeply. But it also opened her eyes to the truth: if she wanted others to respect her, she had to start by respecting herself. One evening, after another draining day at work, Maya collapsed onto her couch with her laptop. She wasn't looking for answers, she just wanted noise to drown out her thoughts. But as she scrolled through videos, one title caught her eye: "The way you treat yourself sets the tone for how others treat you, Mel Robbins." Curious, she clicked. The words hit her like a lightning bolt. Mel spoke with raw honesty: if you don't respect yourself, why should anyone else? You set the example. You decide the rules. People follow the boundaries you create, or the ones you don't. Maya froze. It was as if someone had taken her entire life and explained it in one sentence. She realized she had been waiting for people to magically start respecting her, without ever showing them how. She thought kindness alone would earn appreciation. But in reality, kindness without boundaries only led to being taken advantage of. That night, something shifted. The very next day at work, one of her coworkers walked over with a familiar request: "Hey, Maya, could you finish these numbers for me? I'm swamped." Normally, she would have smiled, nodded, and added it to her already full plate. But this time, her heart raced as she forced herself to try something new. She took a breath, smiled politely, and said, "I can't take that on today. I'm sure you'll figure it out." The words felt heavy, almost unnatural. Guilt flooded her chest. Her hands even shook as she returned to her own task. She expected her coworker to be angry, maybe even offended. But instead, he shrugged, said, "All right, I'll handle it," and walked away. Maya sat frozen, shocked. For the first time, she had said no, and the world didn't end. Nobody yelled at her. Nobody hated her. In fact, it was almost normal. That small moment was a breakthrough. She realized saying no didn't make her selfish, it made her human. It wasn't about rejecting people. It was about protecting her own limits. The turning point wasn't loud or dramatic. It was a quiet sentence, a shaky boundary, and a surprising outcome. But to Maya, it felt like the first breath of freedom. For the first time in her life, she had chosen herself. As the days went by, Maya started experimenting with small boundaries. At first, it felt uncomfortable, even wrong. She had lived her entire life believing that good people sacrifice for others, even at their own expense. But slowly, she began to understand the deeper truth: self-respect is not selfish, it's necessary. The more Maya practiced, the more she noticed the difference. When a coworker asked her to stay late, she calmly replied, "I can't tonight. I already have plans." And instead of arguing, they accepted it. When a friend called to vent for the 5th time in a week, Maya gently said, "I care about you, but I'm not in the right headspace to talk right now." To her surprise, the friend respected that and called another time. These small victories showed her something powerful: people didn't respect her less when she set boundaries, they respected her more. Through trial and error, Maya discovered 3 important lessons. Boundaries protect your energy. Saying no isn't rejection, it's redirection. By protecting her time, she was finally able to use it for things that mattered: rest, hobbies, and personal goals she had long ignored. Respect is built by consistency. If she allowed people to cross the line once, they would keep pushing. But when she held firm, others adjusted quickly. Boundaries weren't walls, they were guidelines that taught others how to treat her. Confidence grows with action. The first no had felt terrifying, the second felt lighter, and by the third, she felt stronger. Self-respect wasn't something she had to wait for, it was something she built, step by step. The changes in her life became visible. At work, her boss began noticing that she no longer accepted every extra task. Instead of taking advantage, he started showing more appreciation for the responsibilities she did handle. With her friends, the dynamic shifted too. They no longer assumed she would always be available, and surprisingly, some of them even began respecting her more because of her honesty. Maya's self-respect became like a shield. She wasn't rude, she wasn't arrogant, she was clear. And that clarity made her stronger than she had ever been. For the first time, she felt like she was living her own life, not just existing for others. She realized a simple but life-changing truth: when you respect yourself, the world has no choice but to follow. Now, this is where Maya's story meets yours. Because if we're honest, almost everyone has been in her shoes at some point. Maybe you've been the person who stays silent when you want to speak up. Maybe you've said yes when every part of you was screaming no. Maybe you've poured your energy into people who wouldn't even notice if you stopped showing up tomorrow. If that feels familiar, take a moment to really ask yourself, what has it cost you? Has it cost you sleep? Peace? Time with your family? Maybe even your dreams? Because the truth is, every yes you give without boundaries is actually a no to yourself. And over time, those small sacrifices pile up until you don't even recognize your own life anymore. Here's the truth Maya finally understood: you train people how to treat you. If you allow constant disrespect, people will keep giving it. If you stay quiet, they'll assume your silence means you're fine. If you're always available, they'll never think twice about taking more. But the moment you decide to respect yourself first, everything changes. And no, it won't happen overnight. The first boundary will feel terrifying. The first no will feel unnatural. You might even feel guilty, like you're letting people down. But that guilt is not a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're breaking an old habit. With practice, that guilt fades and is replaced with something far more powerful: confidence. Think about it. What would your life look like if you stopped saying yes out of fear and started saying yes only when you truly meant it? What would happen if you gave the same love and energy to yourself that you've been giving to everyone else? Respecting yourself doesn't push people away, it filters out the wrong ones and strengthens the right ones. The people who truly care about you will adjust. They'll learn your boundaries and still choose to stay. The ones who only valued what they could take from you, they'll disappear. And that's not a loss, it's freedom. Maya's story proves something simple but life-changing: self-respect is the foundation of a better life. The day she decided to value herself, the world began to value her too. Now it's your turn. Stop waiting for others to respect you. Show them how it's done. Respect yourself first, and watch how everything else begins to fall into place.